Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Sweaty Allen. I'm very sweaty right now because I think my fever is breaking. I have some mysterious illness. It could be COVID. I just got tested yesterday. Fingers crossed, we don't really know what it is. And so I'd like to make a special shout out to the Chinese Communist Party. Screw you guys for not letting the world know about this. So the next time you guys get angry about COVID, don't blame, our president or our governor or the media or anyone. It's not even about the left wing and the right wing in America. This is all the Chinese Communist Party's fault. They could have contained this in Wuhan a long time ago. So screw them, guys. Remember, we're going to stay together in this thing and be angry at the Chinese Communist Party. Anyway, let's go on to the video. There's nothing more fearsome than a clone entering battle wearing pauldrons and a comma. These are the markings of some of the most formidable clones in the Grand Army of the Republic. They are the ARC Troopers, or Advanced Recon Commandos. But did you know there are more than one type of ARC Troopers? Like any type of development process, it takes a lot of trial and error to get exactly what you want. So today I want to take a look at the 4 different classes of ARC Troopers and discuss the chronological development of these Special Forces units. Jango Fett was considered one of the deadliest fighters in the galaxy. As the leader of the true Mandalorian Super Commandos, he wasn't just a mercenary, but a commander and leader of men. What made Jango Fett so great wasn't just his physical capabilities and instincts, he was also a very independent individual who was driven by his own personal moral code. These were great qualities for a mercenary or bounty hunter, but not exactly ideal for a rank-and-file soldier. On the grand battlefield, military strategies require massive amounts of soldiers to do their individual parts to ensure success. The individual soldier often does not have a clear view of the overall strategy and is expected to obey orders without complaint. When the Kaminoan cloners began mass-producing Fett clones, they sought to enhance certain attributes like loyalty, discipline, and aggression. Fortunately, the cloning process was quite complicated and the Kaminoans had limited experience with human DNA. And so out of the first 12 embryos, only 6 really made it to actual full gestation. The others died from the extreme modifications to the DNA. To make matters worse, the modification to the Fett DNA had another unforeseen consequence. All 6 survivors of what would be known as the Null-class ARC Troopers had erratic personalities and inclinations towards disobedience, making them hard to control. This was the opposite of what the Kaminoan cloners wanted. Now, the Kaminoans were a pretty cold-hearted species. They hardly survived an apocalyptic flood that basically turned their Terran world into this watery nightmare that they now lived in. The Kaminoans had ruthlessly culled their own population through their own twisted version of eugenics, which ultimately was what made them such skilled cloners. Is that a silver lining? I don't know. So while most of us would have seen these 6 clones from the first batch as mere children, the Kaminoans saw them as genetic outliers that didn't really meet their requirements. And so at the ripe age of 2, which is 4 in normal human years, the Null-class ARCs were slated for termination. Luckily, one kind-hearted Mandalorian trainer by the name of Cal Skirata managed to talk the degenerate aliens out of terminating the clones. Especially after one of the baby clones, named Myrrel, pulled out Cal's holdout blaster and then threatened the Kaminoan scientists with it. Like all Mandalorians, Cal Skirata had a soft spot for children with a warrior-like spirit, and in true Mandalorian fashion, he adopts all 6 Null-class ARCs as if they were his own. And the old Mandalorian's instincts turned out to be pretty well tuned in. Not only were the Null ARCs larger, heavier, faster, and stronger than the average clone, they also had better perception, photographic memory, and scored 35% higher than other commando-type clones on intelligence tests. They were definitely super soldiers and perfect for the highest level of Special Forces operations. And so, while clone troopers fought in platoons and clone commandos fought in squads of 4, the Null ARC Trooper was most comfortable fighting alone and under cover if necessary. This unique blend of combat skills, outside-the-box thinking, and independence made them the perfect Swiss Army knife for the GAR Special Forces. Following the creation of the Null ARCs, 100 embryos were prepared for the next class of ARC Troopers known as the Alpha class. They would be personally trained by Jango Fett, and were slightly different from the Null-class ARCs. But like their predecessors, the Alpha-class clones were created with unaltered independent minds, but thanks to Jango's strict instruction and training, the Alphas were taught to respect the military structure and hierarchy and their Jedi officers. Nurture over nature, I guess. Now, it didn't mean that these Alpha clones would just obey any order from a Jedi, especially if they were incompetent orders. That's something a basic clone trooper was more likely to do. In cases where a Jedi didn't know what they were doing, which was very common in the earlier years of the war, an Alpha-class trooper would just recommend alternative strategies. But unlike the Nulls, who blatantly disregarded the Jedi and Republic authority and only followed Count Skirata, the Alpha Arcs were disciplined enough to understand the military structure and would follow the Jedi leadership. They also respected the fighting ability and force powers that the Jedi commanders exhibited. During Order 66, all of the Null Arcs would defect from the Republic, whereas about half of the Alpha class would obey Palpatine, whereas half of the Alpha class would basically leave to Mandalore as well. The Alphas and Nulls understandably had quite a rivalry. Both groups of ARC troopers were trained to be a one-man army and had access to the best equipment and training in the GAR. Plus, they had rivaling loyalties and different ideologies, but by the time they got to Mandalore, well, the ones that managed to escape there, they basically let go of their differences. Now, because they were literally Alphas and the first generation of clones in the GAR, the rank-and-file clones and even the clone commandos looked at the ARC troopers in awe. It was the ARC troopers who first named themselves and inherited the Mandalorian culture from their trainers. They were the first ones to wear the Kama, which was a flexible leather armor skirt worn from a belt, which was traditionally worn by Mandalorian warriors and protected the legs from shrapnel. It also helped protect the legs from jetpack exhaust. Now, the Null and Alpha class ARCs proved to be so effective in combat that the Grand Army of the Republic wanted to create a larger ARC Trooper program. Known as the ARC Training Program or Clone Commander Training Program, the main candidates for this advanced training were second generation of clone commanders who were flash trained for command positions and bred with more autonomy, tactical, and coordination abilities. Since Jango Fett lost his head in a lightsaber accident, ARC Trooper Alpha 17 would head this first class of new ARC Troopers. He would not only teach them the ways of the ARC Trooper from a tactical and strategic standpoint, but also teach the clone commanders how to think like an ARC Trooper, making the clone commanders far more independent and out-of-the-box thinkers. Although these new generation of clones did not have as intense genetic modifications as the first class of ARC Troopers, they were definitely superior soldiers to the rank-and-file clones. Amongst the first class of new ARC Troopers, you had individuals like CC-1138 Wink Wink, otherwise known as Commander Bakura of the Crayon-Eating Badass Galactic Marines. Then there was CC-2224 Commander Cody, who led the 212th Attack Battalion alongside General Obi-Wan Kenobi. Lastly, there's the crowd favorite CT-7567 Captain Rex of the mighty 501st Legion, who fought alongside the legendary Jedi duo Ahsoka Tano and Anakin Skywalker. Even though these new ARC Troopers shared more genetic material with the rank-and-file clones rather than the Null and Alpha class clones, their impact in the war was tremendous. And these first generation of new ARC Troopers would go on to train more basic clones that showed excellence in combat to become ARC Troopers as well, like Fives and Jesse. Following the rise of the New Order, the Kaminoans, like many other species in the galaxy, found themselves under occupation by the Empire. Kamino was strategically important because it was the primary place for producing clones for the GAR. The Kaminoans, after seeing their own creations being turned against them, realized the error of their ways when they made the clones extremely loyal to the Republic. And so the sneaky fish-head Kaminoans began developing a secret army behind the Emperor's back and created a special new type of ARC Trooper known as the Rail class. Equipped with ARC variant Phase 1 armor and chain guns, these Rail class ARCs were extremely loyal to the Kaminoans. But loyalty alone was not enough to save the Rail-class ARCs or the Kaminoans. By 12 BBY, the Empire made its move and sent Darth Vader, the 501st Legion, and Boba Fett to destroy this last threat to the stability of the Empire, thus ending the last class of ARC Troopers. So there you have it, guys. Those are the 4 different types of ARC Troopers in Star Wars, and as you can tell, they're not united by their physical capabilities, but by their mental ability to be independent and think outside the box, because on the battlefield, a smart soldier is a deadly soldier. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below. Hopefully, I will be able to upload more videos continuously on GT&GF. If there are some absences, don't worry, guys. I'll try to update you guys on my social media, maybe. As you can tell, I think I'm breaking from a fever right now, which is why the sweat is coming down, but I'm a lot tougher than this mysterious illness, whatever it is. Anyway, guys, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.